The following are my opinions based on facts as I understand them. There are two old issues I'm hoping we can put to rest tonight. First, the trees located on private property that DPS cut down in 2010 cost us a total of $7,650. On one of the DPS invoices was Councilman Reeves' address. Although the invoice reads the work was performed at his address, Mr. Reeves explained that the tree was actually located on the neighbor's property behind him, but was removed across his property. All this hard data is found on DPS invoices, not imagined by Mr. Rock, as Councilman Reeves and Johnson have implied. They owe Mr. Rock an apology and us an investigation into the DPS practices back in 2010. Citizens are not liable to pay for trees cut on others' property, but nevertheless we paid. These appear to be criminal acts. You tell me. The second issue is concerning the $513,315 rating day library fund dollars. The council transferred from the library to the city general fund in 2010. The mayor and city attorney said it never happened. On the city's 2010-11 library expense budget proposes $521,715. Two columns to the right, under actuals, it indicates $5,889. So in writing, they were correct. Here is my problem. On the library's own budget fund for 2009-10, under revenues, there is $40,000 listed for interest income. On the 2010-11 budget, under revenues, there is a $20,000 interest income listed. All following budgets have no interest income. As far as I know, one collects interest on cash deposits. So my questions are, what library cash fund earned this interest? And was it just a coincidence that the library's interest income disappeared the year after the library's rainy day fund disappeared? We deserve answers in a timely fashion. Council President, may I approach the dais to pass a copy of the DPS invoice? I apologize, I have only one set. My copier broke this morning.
You can get it to the clerk's office.
To the clerk's office here?
No, send it to the clerk's office and they'll deliver it to us.
Oh, okay, it's just a copy of.
Yeah, I understand.
No problem.
Anyone on my left? Anyone on my right?
To say thank you to Mr. Roger Myers from Presbyterian Village for the $5,000 donation, $250 each to the police and fire. It's a wonderful way to say thank you to those who assisted in those times of need. Also to Vic Bear for his donation to the Inspired Community Theater. In reference to Ms. DeWitt's comments, you know, they've been running this scam for 5 years now about a tree allegedly being cut on my property, and the tree, they have the invoice. They never really bothered to contact the number to find out in 5 years where the tree was, because the minute they do that, they'd have to come back here and admit to all of you, the public, that they lied. They flat out lied about it. There's never been a tree on my property. Mr. Johnson knows it, and anybody that's been in my house knows it. The reason it was accessed from my property because the backyard where the tree was flooded. They could have never accessed it from that area. They could have never gotten a vehicle in or out. So they consistently come up here every year around an election cycle and they make these bogus comments. It's been going on for 5 years. The same thing. The same thing. It's sad. You need to find something else to talk about. Thank you.
Councilman Coleman.
Thank you.
Too, would like to thank the police and fire departments for the fine job you guys always do. I know you're not looking for donations. Takes special people to do the job you guys do, and I appreciate everything you do over there. And just a comment on the tree. For the last time, I'm going to talk about it. Been to Councilman Reeves' house probably 100 times. Never was a tree in the backyard. They're right about one thing. An apology is needed, and it needs to go to Mr. Reeves. Thank you.
Hey, well, Councilman Reeves, I believe you're correct. This always seems to come up at election cycle years, doesn't it? I guess the bright point is they have to dig up something 5 years old to try to come up with something to try to get you for. So that's the good news. They can't find anything new because you're an upstanding member of the city council. I'll address the garbage. Hopefully the mayor will be appointing that committee. The reason I ask is I've taken a lot of letters, phone calls, and emails and participated on our Facebook page. It looks like 90% of the complaints when they say my garbage didn't get picked up properly or something wrong with their garbage pickup, it's one of two things. Miss McKinney hit one of them. Both the recycling or the regular garbage, they're so stuffed that they're hanging out the top and the lid isn't shut. You have to fit it inside, the top has to be shut. Even on the recycle bins, you can't stack cardboard 5 feet high over the top of your bin. So if it's done correctly, it'll be picked up. The other one is, and there's about 4 people on my street, they stack them very neatly right next to each other. They have to be 3 or 4 feet apart. They have to be 3 or 4 feet from parked cars and 3 or 4 feet from the mailboxes for the people that have mailboxes out front by the curb. So if you position your bins correctly and the tops are shut, your garbage will be picked up on a regular basis. That's about 9 out of the 10 problems that I've seen so far with the new system. The other thing I'd like to do is tonight is I also would like to thank Presbyterian Village for their donation, and of course the police department and fire department for all the work they do. And I'd also like to recognize the DPS for the great job they did on clearing the streets despite some of the temporary criticisms we had in the first 24 hours. It takes a while to get them done. And also, I can't imagine being the water crews out there in this sub-zero weather fixing water main breaks. And one last thank you to the fireworks enthusiasts that live somewhere between John Glenn High School and the intersection of Cherry Hill and Newburgh, who was so proudly displaying his fireworks all weekend for the holidays. Unbelievable. 20 below zero and you're out shooting fireworks. You really like your fireworks. Me and my neighbors would like to thank us for driving our dogs crazy. One more.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'd like to start by thanking Adam for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. I too would like to express my thanks to Mr. Myers and the people at Presbyterian Village for their generous contributions to both the police and fire department funds. Those guys do this regardless if there's, the intent of trying to get a donation. That's the last thing that these guys think of when they're out there providing service to anybody. But I can tell you that I'm sure that both groups deeply appreciate the recognition that the residents and that the other business owners, because Presbyterian Village is actually a business in the long run, that they recognize the efforts and that our great departments do for them. So again, thank you, Mr. Myers, for that. Vic and the Wayne Ford Civic League, thank you for recognizing the Inspire Theater. This is their 10th anniversary. It's a great organization. They put on some nice plays. I would encourage everybody to go out and see them. They actually did a dinner theater this past week. I think they've got a hors d'oeuvre one this weekend. So I would encourage you, and it's the best of kind of scenario. So it's a little snippets over the past 10 years of things that they've done. So please take advantage of the local arts community that we do have in this city. In regards to the comments from Mrs. DeWitt, these things have been going on and keep being brought up. As Councilman Kerr mentioned, it always seems to come up during an election cycle year. This is 10 years or 5 years old. We've answered these questions numerous times. Mrs. DeWitt isn't even here. She gets up and walks out after she comes up and makes these slanderous remarks. because she doesn't want any answers. She just wants to get up here and throw mud. And it goes on and on continuously. And people wonder why people don't want to run for council, why we don't want to sit up here and take this abuse. I get stopped every time I go to the supermarket, and people ask me over and over again, how do you sit there and take it? Well, to be honest, I'm about done taking it. Bringing up stuff that's 5 years old, that's been answered, and then running out the door so that you don't hear an answer, you don't get any explanation, because you don't want one. You just want to come up here and throw mud. And it does get old. And I apologize for losing my temper over this, but it gets old. We don't deserve that kind of treatment. The residents don't deserve that kind of treatment. Is there a motion to adjourn?